In this video I'm going to replace this roof-mounted car aerial with a new one for a DAB radio. The original aerial on this 2006 Vauxhall Corsa is only suitable for FM and AM reception. The roof at the back of the Corsa is fairly flat and the bases of the new and old aerials are similar. If your aerial is at the front of your car, the curvature of the roof might make this sort of aerial unsuitable. You can find out more about these aerials on our website. There is a link to the page in the description below. These are some of the parts and tools that we're going to use today to install the aerial on the Corsa. We've got the base for the new aerial, which has a couple of connectors on it and a rubber grommet there. We've got the mast for the aerial as well. We're going to keep that separate just for the time being, make things a bit easier to handle. We bought some cables to go with the aerial. We've got a 5-meter DAB cable, a 5-meter AM FM cable, and we've got some automotive power cable as well, plus the instructions for installing the aerial. Also got here a fuse holder and some crimp connectors which we're going to need so we can provide the power to the aerial. Looking at the tools, we've got a general purpose screwdriver set, various bits in there. Got a torch to help us see inside the headlining when we get to that. We've got a ratchet and a Torx bit which we're going to need to help get some trim off so we can get in the headlining. Also got a spanner. I'm going to use that to take off the base of the old aerial and secure the new one. A crimping tool as well for when we have to do a little bit of wiring. Some general purpose grease. We're going to need to grease the mounting components on the base of the aerial, so general purpose grease for that. And to go with that, we've got some rubber gloves as well. The procedure for removing the trim panels, roof lining and routing the cable will be unique to your car. The tools you need will depend on your interior as well. You could look at a Haynes manual or ask in an owners club or forum for more advice on your particular car. If you're not confident about doing this sort of job, it's worth speaking to a car audio specialist, electrician or mechanic. This car is quite simple with no airbags in the roof lining or the A-pillar. If your car has safety features which are in or around the trim that you need access to, like airbags and seat belts, you should speak to a suitably qualified and experienced auto electrician or audio specialist who can complete this sort of work for you. On the underside of the roof, the aerial nut needs to be undone and the wiring connector should be disconnected. To get access to this and the old cable, I need to drop the headlining at the back of the car. This requires removing some trim pieces and a fastener near the boot seal. Then the headlining can carefully be pulled away from the rubber seal. Be careful not to mark or crease the headlining where it's still attached to the car. I am moving it slightly more than you should need to, just to show it for the camera. Now the old antenna can be taken off and the old aerial base removed. The old cable will be left in place so that there's the option to reinstall this aerial later. There isn't much access for a spanner, but the nut isn't very tight. A slotted socket for temperature sensors might work as well. Be careful around the metal edges behind the headlining and trim or use gloves as these can be quite sharp. A short wire from the bottom of the aerial base goes to a connector. This can be disconnected. In the Corsa there is a small tab to push in to release it. Now the old aerial base should come away from the car. To ensure a good seal for the new aerial, the roof should be clean and dry. The instructions for this new aerial say that the underside of the roof should be sanded to bare metal. This can leave some dust around the hole on the outside and it should be cleaned again. Now the new aerial can be installed. The mast will be attached to the base later on. This aerial comes with two types of seal or grommet. Which one you use depends on the shape of the hole in the car roof. On the Corsas the hole is square, so the round seal is removed. The flexible ring is then stretched around the square part of the base. To double check, I'm looking at the old aerial which has a single round seal. The instructions say that all the mounting components should be greased. I'm using multi-purpose grease from Motor Factors. The cables from the aerial base are short and have their own connectors, and these are dropped through first. Then the threaded part of the base is carefully lowered through the hole. The supplied nut is then twisted onto the thread and done up with an adjustable spanner. As the nut is tightened, grease is pushed from under the aerial base. Now the cables can be run to the front of the car. The aerial needs power and this will be taken from the radio. The aerial comes with a female spade connector already crimped onto the red wire. On the power wire we've bought, I'm stripping back the cable to crimp on a suitable male connector. A fuse will be installed between the radio and the aerial. The fuse holder has a male spade connector on each side, so I will repeat this process for the other end but with a female connector. Now the DAB, AM, FM and power cables can be connected. I'm using some electrical tape to make it easier to bring the cables through the car. The cables will come behind the headlining, down the A-pillar and behind the glove box to the radio. There may be a better route you can take in your car. Going along the sill could be easier or help avoid things like airbags. The cables are pulled through carefully. If there's any resistance, don't keep pulling the cable in case it's kinked or the insulation might be stripped on sharp metal. If there are any points where you could secure the cable with cable ties, you could do that as well. Now the cables can be run behind the dashboard. I've removed the side of the glove box and the door to get better access, but this might not be required in your car. The DAB radio hasn't been fitted yet, so the cables can be pulled through the mounting cage. The antenna mast is now screwed into the aerial base. To get power for the aerial, I'm using a 12-volt feed from the back of the radio. You could also use a switched live feed in the car, such as the power going to the radio. If you need to find a switched 12-volt feed in your car, there are some good videos online about how to do this. The wiring harness for the radio might have an antenna wire which isn't terminated. Check the manual for your particular car radio to see more about this connection. In this case, I need to fit a female spade connector which will go onto the male connector on the fuse holder. If you're also installing a DAB radio, check out our other videos on replacing a single DIN radio and a factory fitted radio. The cables are now all ready to be plugged in. First, the Sony wiring harness is plugged into the stereo. Then the two ISO plugs are connected to the car's plugs. Next, the fuse is installed between the radio and the aerial. One side is connected to the radio and the other side is connected to the aerial using the female spade connectors we've already installed. Then the new aerial is plugged in with the separate DAB and AM/FM connectors. Now the cables can be carefully tucked behind the radio. The radio is pushed into the cage, but not all the way in yet in case it doesn't work. At this point, none of the trim has been reinstalled. This is the first time that this radio has been switched on, so it's scanning for DAB stations using the new aerial. You may need to do this manually if you've already used the radio.
Well, thank you very much.
Home time with Bush and Richie.
With Tesco Mobile, with tailored contracts that lower your monthly bill, it's easy to find a phone you'll truly love. Tesco Mobile, every little helps.
The radio has found all the DAB stations we should receive, so I'm now checking for FM, medium wave and long wave stations as well. Everything sounds good, so now all the trim can be reinstalled. Take care when pushing the trim back into place not to damage any of the new cables. The radio can be fully pushed into the mounting cage and then the installation is complete. You can read more about these and other DAB aerials on the website by following the links below. Thank you for watching. Check out our channel for other videos about DAB car radios and also about installing DAB windscreen antennas.